After sitting on this bench for 4 decades, you convince yourself there are no surprises left. You see the desperate, the sorry, the furious, and the schemers. But then came a Tuesday morning in September that shattered that illusion. 3 simple words were spoken in my courtroom that sucked the air right out of the room, 3 words that threatened to upend everything. I own you. Let me tell you the story of Richard Vandermeer, and the day a billionaire walked through those doors believing his bank account could purchase a verdict. I arrived at the courthouse early that morning, my ritual for 40 years. My father used to drill it into me. Frank, 10 minutes early is on time is late. So, at 8:20 a.m., I was at my desk, sipping strong black coffee, the way Christina makes it, the Italian way, and reviewing the docket. There was the name, Richard Vandermeer, City Ordinance Violations, Contempt. I knew the name. Everyone did. The man was worth $18 billion. Real estate, media. The type of guy whose face is on the front page of the Wall Street Journal more often than most of us check our mail. But frankly, the numbers didn't dazzle me. I grew up in Providence when times were hard. I watched my father work 3 jobs, construction by day, security by night, weekends on the docks, just to keep us afloat. He taught me a lesson I never forgot. Your bank balance doesn't define you, your character does. And character? That's not for sale. Christina leaned in and whispered, "Judge, buckle up. This one's going to be a show." She didn't know the half of it. The case looked standard on paper. Vandermeer owned the Aurora Tower downtown, a gorgeous 43-story structure of glass and steel. But beneath the surface, it was a disaster. Dozens of building code violations, environmental hazards, and a campaign of intimidation against neighboring mom-and-pop shops who dared to complain. A sharp young prosecutor named Jennifer Morrison, fresh out of law school at 28, had built the case. She had the receipts, and when Vandermeer's legal team tried to bully her into silence, she stood her ground. I liked her immediately. The unpaid fines totaled $1.7 million. For a man who spends more than that waxing his yachts, the money wasn't the issue. He didn't pay because he believed he didn't have to. The hearing was set for 9 a.m. At 9:07, 7 minutes late, the doors swung open. Richard Vandermeer strolled in like he was gracing us with his presence. 6 feet tall, silver hair coiffed to perfection, wearing a suit that cost more than my first car. He wasn't alone. He had an entourage of 4 attorneys, all clutching expensive leather briefcases. He didn't look at me. No apology for the delay. He just sauntered to the defense table and started chatting with his lead counsel as if I were invisible. In that moment, I thought of my dad standing in line for unemployment during the Depression, hat in hand, terrified but respectful. And here was this man, draped in billions, who couldn't muster an ounce of common courtesy. "Mr. Vandermeer," I said, keeping my tone even, "thank you for joining us. I assume you know why we are here." One of his lawyers shot up. "Your Honor, if I may—" I held up a hand. "I was addressing Mr. Vandermeer, counselor. I'm sure he can speak for himself." The lawyer sank back down. Vandermeer leaned back, a faint, amused smirk playing on his lips. "I understand the accusations, Your Honor. I don't see the merit, but I understand them." "The merit will be decided here," I replied. "But first, let's discuss the time. We were scheduled for 9 a.m. "My apologies," he said, waving a hand dismissively. "Traffic was unpredictable." It wasn't a real apology. It was the kind of thing you say to make a nuisance go away. "Traffic is unpredictable for everyone, Mr. Vandermeer," I noted. Yet the prosecutor, the staff, and everyone else here managed to be on time. His smile slipped just a fraction. He wasn't used to pushback. "Noted, Your Honor." I let the silence hang in the air for a moment, a trick you learn after 40 years. Then I opened the file. "Let's proceed." Prosecutor Morrison stood up. She was nervous. High-profile cases do that to young lawyers, but her voice was rock steady. She laid it all out. The codes, the environmental damage, the harassment of small business owners, the $1.7 million debt. "Your Honor," she finished, "this isn't a mistake. It's a pattern of total disregard for the law." Then Vandermeer's lead attorney, Charles Whitmore, stood up. He was a partner at a major firm, the kind who charges $500 an hour, and thinks he runs the city. "Your Honor," he said with that polished confidence, "my client takes this very seriously. In fact, we are prepared to end this right now." He slid a document onto the table like a winning poker hand. "A settlement offer. Mr. Vandermeer will pay all fines in full, plus plus an extra $2 million for the local businesses. All violations fixed in 60 days. This is the efficient way to resolve this. I have to be honest, it was a massive offer. I saw Morrison look at her boss in the gallery, who nodded at her to take the win. I picked up the paper, read it, and set it down. Mr. Whitmore, this is generous. Whitmore smiled, thinking he'd won. We believe in efficiency, Your Honor. I'm sure you do, I said. But I'm not interested in efficiency, I'm interested in justice. Whitmore's smile evaporated. There is a principle here, I continued. When you break the law for 3 years and only offer to fix it when you're caught, that's not remorse. That's a calculation. I looked right at the billionaire. Mr. Vandermir, you had years to do the right thing. You chose not to. So we are going to proceed with this hearing and determine the appropriate consequences under the law, not what's convenient, what's right. Vandermeer's casual confidence vanished. His jaw set hard. Whitmore tried to argue. Your Honor, surely we can be reasonable. We are being reasonable. We are following the law. Vandermeer whispered something to Whitmore. Whitmore shook his head, looking alarmed, but Vandermeer ignored him and stood up. Your Honor, may I speak plainly? The room went stiff. Clients don't just address the judge, but he was already standing. Go ahead, I said. Thank you, Vandermeer began, his tone dripping with condescension. I appreciate your dedication to principle, but let's talk about the real world. With all due respect, you are a municipal court judge. You handle parking tickets. I could buy this building tomorrow. I employ 50,000 people. My companies drive the economy. My foundation builds hospitals. And my decisions affect lives too, I said quietly. He rolled right over me. I'm offering to pay everything. Fix everything. What more do you want? Do you want a conviction on my record just to make a point? To hurt my international business? Yes, I said simply. To make exactly that point. His face flushed red. Judge Caprio, you are missing the big picture. No, Mr. Vandermeer, you are. I took off my glasses. See Mrs. Patterson over there? She's retired, lives on Social Security, and has come here for 15 years to pay her tickets on time. That young man in the back works 2 jobs and paid his fine without a peep. They follow the law, not because they have to, but because that is the compact of our society. Everyone plays by the same rules. Vandermeer wasn't listening. His voice hardened. I think you need to understand something. I know the governor. I know senators. I know federal judges. I have influence. Stop, I interrupted, my voice low but sharp. Are you suggesting your political connections should dictate my ruling? I'm suggesting, he retorted, that you consider the consequences for yourself. The courtroom went dead silent. Are you threatening this court? I'm stating facts, he said quickly, though the menace was clear. I know people. I know how the system works. Maybe I talk to the mayor about your funding. Maybe my friends in the press investigate your background. Maybe they find something. My hands gripped the bench. In 40 years, no one had ever threatened me like this. Are you threatening my family? I'm just saying investigations can be uncomfortable, he smirked. I looked at him, this man who thought he was a god because of his wallet. I thought about the people who stood there with genuine remorse. I thought about my father telling me, Frank, show me a bully and I'll show you a coward. Real power doesn't need to threaten. Suddenly, Vandermeer didn't look like a titan of industry. He looked like a scared man who had run out of road. Mr. Vandermeer, I said, I am giving you one chance to sit down and let your attorney handle this. Or what? He challenged, stepping toward the bench. You'll fine me? You think I care about your fines? He stepped closer, prompting security to tense up. He pointed a finger right at my face. I own you. The silence was absolute. Nobody breathed. Christina's pen stopped. The court reporter froze. Even his own lawyers looked terrified. I stood there for 3 seconds, but it felt like a lifetime. In those seconds, 40 years of experience crystallized. Bailiffs, I said calmly, approach the bench. 2 officers moved in. Mr. Vandermeer, you are in criminal contempt of court. Furthermore, you are under arrest for threatening a judicial officer and attempting to obstruct justice. The color drained from his face. You can't. I just did. Officers take him into custody. The panic in his eyes was instant. The bravado, the threats, gone. Your Honor, wait, I didn't mean. You meant every word. Now you will face the consequences. His lawyer finally stammered. Your Honor, he spoke in anger, please. He had his chance to stop. He chose not to. They handcuffed Richard Vandermeer right there. The man who claimed to own people was being led away like any other criminal. "Judge, please," he pleaded. "I have a company to run." "You have a cell to sit in," I replied. "Take him away." I called a recess. My hands were shaking. Not from fear, but from the adrenaline. I went to my chambers and sat down. Christina brought me water. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," I said. "I just keep wondering how many people he's bullied into silence over the years." 20 minutes later, there was a knock. It was Prosecutor Morrison, accompanied by a woman I'd seen taking notes in the back. "Your Honor," Morrison said, "this is Assistant U.S. Attorney Catherine Reynolds." "Judge Caprio," Reynolds said, "what happened today was helpful. We've been investigating Vandermir for racketeering and witness intimidation for 18 months, but everyone was too terrified to testify." "You let him come into my court knowing this?" I asked. "We hoped he might slip up," she admitted. "We didn't expect him to self-destruct." She pulled out a small device. "With court permission, we had audio running. We have everything on tape." I felt a surge of relief. "What happens now?" Reynolds smiled. "Now? He gave us everything we needed. Threatening a judge, obstruction, it's all there. He's looking at federal time." By evening, the story was everywhere. Billionaire arrested after threatening judge. But the headlines didn't matter to me. What mattered was what followed. 3 days later, I received a letter from Thomas Chin, a restaurant owner near the Aurora Tower. He wrote, "Judge Caprio, Vandermeer's people threatened to ruin me if I complained about the construction. I was scared, but seeing you stand up to him, I went to the city attorney today. I'm not afraid anymore." I read that letter 10 times. That is what justice is about. It's about showing people that the system works. The floodgates opened. Once people saw Vandermeer wasn't untouchable, they found their courage. Dozens of business owners and witnesses came forward. The federal investigation exploded, revealing years of bribery and corruption. 6 months later, Vandermeer went to trial in federal court. I testified. He looked different, gray, thinner, defeated. The arrogance was gone. The jury found him guilty on 14 counts. He was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. I'm never happy to see someone go to prison. It means society failed somewhere, but justice was served. The most meaningful impact, however, came a year later. A letter arrived from Sarah Martinez, a student who had been in the gallery that day. She wrote, "I'm graduating law school next month and becoming a prosecutor. You showed me that justice isn't about who has the most money. It's about the courage to do what's right. I will carry that lesson with me." That letter is framed in my office next to my father's picture, because that's the lesson. Richard Vandermeer thought he owned the world. He thought his money put him above the law. He was wrong. I still think about those 3 words. I own you. He didn't own me. He didn't own the system, and he certainly didn't own the truth. People ask if I was scared. I tell them what I learned long ago. You can't let fear make your decisions. My father didn't, and I wasn't about to start. It shouldn't be remarkable for a judge to do their job, regardless of the defendant's wealth. That should be the standard. We have work to do to ensure justice is truly blind, but on that Tuesday in September, the system worked. Richard Vandermeer has 12 years to think about those 3 words. Justice cannot be bought, threatened, or intimidated. It can only be served. I'm Frank Caprio. Remember, character is what you do when no one is watching, but integrity is what you do when everyone is watching, and it would be easier to fold. Stand your ground. Do what's right. Thanks for listening, and God bless.